I grew up not even thinking that sex could be pleasurable for me. Like I always thought it was for the other person. Again, that thread of like, I exist for somebody else. It was really the pleasure, right, that brought me home to myself. If we think about enlightenment, it's like enlightenment. We're bringing more light in. When we think about healing, that's what we're doing. We're bringing more light into the system. And we can do that through these healing things, but we can also do it through doing what lights us up. When you're in pleasure, oxytocin, endorphins, like all of these happy neurochemicals rise and cortisol goes down. I'm actually going to listen to the most vulnerable, most sensitive part of me to make decisions. Like if she's not a yes, I don't want it. And that was such a reprogramming because decisions would come from the mind and come from should. And then I would bypass my body. If you think about it, like our pussy, our womb is connected, our uterus is connected to the beyond, is connected to the unknown. It is where life is created. And so when you're checking in with pussy, you're checking in with the goddess. You're checking in with God. Right? You're checking in with your higher self.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Home to Self podcast. My name is Lilly, and today I have a very special friend and guest on the show, Ariana McCartney. Thank you for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you on. You are a naturopathic doctor and a priestess of pleasure and play. And I'm like, right off the bat, I just want to pass it over to you. I'm like, tell us what that means to you to be a priestess of pleasure and play. And like, what is your thing? What is the thing that is like the through line between all the work that you do and just that which is your mission to bring out to the world? Because I know there's a lot of different flavors of your work and just who you are as a human.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, for me in naturopathic medical school, I really grew up from this perspective of martyrdom that like women were here to serve others and not myself, right? And after medical school, even in medical school, it was very much like, what does the patient need? What does the person in front of me need? And like kind of this overextending, over giving element. And after graduating and over the last 2.5 years, I've really come home to my own pleasure and my own play. And that not only has helped me heal my sexual trauma and really got into a state of thriving, but it's really helped me be in sessions and any relationship that I'm in from a state of like groundedness and centeredness, where I'm choosing my pleasure and I'm choosing my play along with serving the person in front of me. And it's been like, oh, when I am in my pleasure, I actually serve more people, right? Versus we can think like, oh, if I'm in my pleasure, then I'm just taking and it's for me, and right. And it's actually been the opposite for me. And so that's how I weave in, like for me, pleasure and play is now the through line that comes through all of my work. So as a naturopathic doctor, I'm also trained as a pro dom, and I also have Tantra experience and Tantra trainings. And so I weave all of this into sessions. And I bring that element of like healing gets to be fun. Like healing gets to feel good, right? It's not all about just like pushing through the sticky points. We have to do it and we have to make it hard. And it's like, oh, we actually get to like how can we like dance our way to wellness? How can we dance our way to health? How can we sing our way into our truth, right? And so that's really the through line that comes through all of my work now.
Yeah, I love that. That was such a big pivotal moment in my own journey too, where it's like I always tried to heal through this very forceful, sacrificing way and restrictive eating, and just it was like this struggle to get to where I wanted to get. And then the more I started to experience joy and pleasure and community and having fun, I actually started to see how my body was healing too. And I was like, that is very weird. And let's explore this. And so I'm excited to dive into that a little bit more. But before we do, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your story, because I can imagine someone who's hearing you speak for the first time and, like it being like, oh, she's always been comfortable with her sexuality maybe, or she's, this is just like easy for her. She must have grown up, around this. And as your friend, I know a little bit more about your story, and I know it's been quite the journey. And also just seeing how all the dots connect to us getting to a point where it's like, yeah, this is the message that I know I'm here to share because I've been through it.
Mhm.
I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I grew up in a very sex negative household, very touch averse household, and with just a background of just like, that's not okay. Like, that's so not okay. And I remember in high school, um, I hadn't ever like self pleasured. And my friends were like, "Hey, are you doing this?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "You should." And I was like, "Okay." And so I went out and bought all these Cosmo magazines and like started exploring. And then one day, all of the Cosmos had just disappeared from my room. Like somebody went in and threw them out. I'm guessing my mom, right? And I've now had healing conversations with my mom about this. And so we're at a really good place, which I'm so grateful for because I know that she was just doing her best and what she, coming from an even more repressed background herself. But from that point, it was just like, okay, this is not okay. I grew up like not even thinking that sex could be pleasurable for me. Like I always thought it was for the other person. Again, that thread of like, I exist for somebody else. And I then went to college having never had sex. And the first time I had sex, I was blackout and I woke up with somebody inside of me. Like it was a non consensual rape experience as my first sexual experience. And for years, I would just like laugh about that. I was like, ha ha ha, like I was so fucked up. Like, oh my God, how crazy, how wild. And I didn't really hold on to that as trauma or anything that my body had held on to as painful. But then during my undergrad years, I escaped a lot with alcohol and drugs, and I came out as queer when I was 19. And I was like, oh my God, I don't feel okay about sexuality, and now I'm queer. And like, now I have to like talk about this to people. I have to come out. And there was so much self loathing. There was so much self hatred. There was just like this like chasm, right? Between like the one that I pretended to be when I was like not drunk or high and out in the world. And then when I would get drunk or high, I would like all of these shadows would come out. And I had no idea what to do with any of it. And I got really spun up into this escape cycle. And fast forward to after undergrad, when I was living in Toronto, and I had hit this really low point where this cycle had caught up and I was just partying, doing so many drugs every single weekend. It was just like that was my life. And I was taking Adderall during the week because I had ADHD and I just like my health started to decline and I hit this low point of depression. And I had a suicidal moment and that woke me up. And I was like, "Oh my God, I need to do something different." I'd been going to hot yoga, I'd been doing meditation, I'd been seeing a therapist, like none of it was working. And that's when I actually started started a microdosing protocol. And this was back in 2015 before microdosing was like in the common zeitgeist. And I started on a protocol, and within the first day, like noticed a dramatic difference where instead of eating breakfast alone, isolated, I was like eating breakfast with people and chatting with them. And then the microdosing kind of took me deeper into addiction, and I hit this bottom and this spiritual awakening where at the time I was living with a roommate who was a pretty heavy crystal meth user. I myself was using speed and GHB 24/7, sleeping like 4 hours a night. Speed is 90% meth. I didn't know that until the end of the summer. And it was just like fried, right? And I had this moment of awakening where I, in my dream, saw this dying swan, and she was so hurt and struggling, could like barely walk. And I woke up and it was just like poof, like holy shit, that's my spirit. And that's what's going to, like, I will die if I continue on this path. And so that led to me getting sober intuitively. I didn't do AA, I didn't do any recovery things, partially from the shame of it. But I really followed that guiding light of this swan and my inner spirit. And fast forward a year and a half later, and I was starting naturopathic medical school. Like, I can thank you psychedelics. Thank you psychedelics. Like intentional use of psychedelics. Because I've been partying with them for years, but like the actual like I'm taking this, I'm doing this to heal my depression. Like everything changed. Um, and then when I was in medical school, I did a training for psychedelic somatic therapy, and during the certification, part of it was like getting your own sessions, right? So for 6 months, I was giving a session and receiving a session, and like all of my sexual trauma came up, like all of my sexual trauma, and it was so destabilizing. And I was just like, what? I don't like. I'm processing intense rape scenes. Like I don't have any memory of this. Like, did I there were moments when I was living in Toronto, I was like, was I drug raped? Was I, and I had other moments in my 20s of non consensual touch and freezing that I just thought was normal. And when all the sexual trauma was coming out, I just like let my body process it. And at the same time, I fell into this like deep state of burnout, hormone dysregulation. My libido tanked. I was feeling so much disgust with my body. Like I'm queer. I could not even like think about a pussy, a yoni. I was just like, bleh. I was so disgusted with myself. And it was during my second to last year of med school that it was during the last year, actually, last year of med school. I was just like, I need something different. Like I just feel dead inside. And I had gained weight and I was just like in a rough place. And I saw this post on Instagram that was like about a sober dance festival in Austin. And just immediately I was like, yes. So I signed up for it. It was my celebration after these big milestone exams called the OSCE exams. And I went. And when I was there, Spirit guided me to a sensual awakening workshop. And I lay there blindfolded, connecting to my body for the first time, looking for pleasure versus just looking for the trauma, the charge, and the pain. And medical school, what's the diagnosis, what are the symptoms, how can we get to the root cause of it's so much analytical of like what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. And in that sensuality workshop, it was one of the first times that I was looking for what was right with me, what was my magic. And I realized that my sensuality is my magic, my touch, my the like the beauty of sensation, right? Like that is so much of who I am. And I believe so much of who we are as women or feminine beings. It's in our sensuality, it's in our ability to feel. And so from that point, I started following this path of pleasure, this path of sensuality. And that's what really like took me out and got me to a place of like, oh, I can exhale, I can breathe, like, and and I had so much of my health journey, chronic constipation, all of this stuff, and it was really the pleasure, right, that brought me home to myself. And so yeah, I know that for anybody listening, you could probably relate to the queerness or the addiction piece, or maybe that feels very different and far out for you, but maybe you just feel like a sense of disconnection with your body, right? And yeah, like there's just so much goodness. And so this is what, yeah, I want to bring to folks now.
Wow, thank you for sharing your story. And it's so beautiful to start to look back because it's only in hindsight that we can start to see all the ways that we have been called forward into the path that, we're being continuously called to be in service of. And yeah, it's usually a story like that where you have had to go through your own experiences of pain and pleasure and all of the lessons to finally get to where you are now. And um, there's so much to dive into. But before we do, I want to dive deeper into this concept of healing through pleasure and
Mhm.
asking you, why do you think that pleasure can be such a portal for healing? Like,
Mm,
tell us a little bit more about what you've discovered about pleasure and healing and awakening.
yeah. So I had this aha this summer. And this was, I took my sister through a medicine journey for her first time. And so we were both on medicine. And I had this big erotic reclamation process open up. And then we were sitting there chatting. And I had this huge aha of like, turn on is our truth. And if we think about enlightenment, it's like enlightenment. We're bringing more light in when we think about healing, right? If you have like this dark room, you can't really move and shift things without opening up a window or opening up a door, bringing more light in. And so in naturopathic medicine, like that's what we're doing. We're bringing more light into the system, right? And we can do that through these like healing things, but we can also do it through doing what lights us up. Doing what lights us up is enlightenment. Okay, like sitting and doing the difficult meditation and we don't want to, and it's there, and it's like doing the breath work. Like breath work can be so beautiful and healing, right? But doing it from a place of like, oh, I'm gonna feel so good afterwards, so I'm gonna do this because it's like pleasurable for me, right? And there's almost there can be a pleasure in the pain too, right? Of like there's a pleasure in going through a fucking gnarly medicine journey and crying your eyes out, right? There's a pleasure in that, but it's anchoring it to like, oh, I'm doing this not because I'm trying to fix or change something or because I'm wrong or because I did something bad that needs to be like remedied now. It's, oh, I'm doing this because this is lighting me up, right? And then when we think about the biochemical response, so many women have jacked up hormones right now. Their progesterone is tanked. We're just pushing through all month long as if we had that same testosterone every single day, or as if we're ovulating all month long. And it's like, no, we're not. And so part of why we can get low progesterone is because our cortisol is too high. Okay. So cortisol and progesterone are produced both from the same like mother molecule, pregnenolone. When we're in a state of stress, the body will preferentially make cortisol over progesterone because if you're in stress, it's like, we're not making a baby. We don't want our hormones balanced. We need to fight or flight. And so the downstream effect of that, right, is like our jacked up periods. And so let me bring it back. Like why does this connect to pleasure? Well, when we're in pleasure, it actually decreases cortisol. When you're in pleasure, oxytocin, endorphins, like all of these happy neurochemicals rise and cortisol goes down. So, one of the best ways that you can heal your cycle and heal your body is actually just being in pleasure. Like, what? Like, yes, herbs like Vitex, like there's herbs that we can take that really help with progesterone production. But like the root of it is for most people is that we're actually just not doing what we want to be doing. And we're thinking that we have to self sacrifice. We're thinking that we have to like push forward when it's like, no, honey, like we want you in your bliss. And like calling on sisters, like Lily's birthday a couple weeks ago. We just like surrounded her in love and adoration, right? Do you know what that did to her system? Like endorphins, oxytocin. Do you know what it did for all of us around her? Endorphins, oxytocin, because it feels so good to like serve a woman, right? And so it's like possible. I know it's like can be scary of like, how could I ask for that? How can I do something in pleasure? But it can really start with something as small as I'm wearing this necklace today because it brings me joy and anchoring that in.
Mm-hmm. Mm, so good. There's so much goodness. I'm so excited for this conversation. Okay, So there's a couple things here. The first thing I want to just kind of double click on this, because this again has been such a big part of my experience as well. For me, it was very much so around my physical health, and I've told this story a few times, but it's crazy to me because my logical brain from everything I had learned was like, yeah, it was the opposite of pleasure that was going to heal me, right? It was more doing more and being stricter and harder, and it was just like, it's like this like route that is forceful, and you have to have so much willpower. And when I recognized how much stress I was creating for myself from which my body could not heal, and that's the thing, is like, what was such a pivotal moment for me was the recognition of how I was reinforcing the very thing that I was actually trying to get away from. Right. Because the more that we are like, oh, let's look for the thing that's broken and fixing ourselves and another solution and another 30-day challenge or whatever it is, we are continuously focusing on the problem and therefore feeding it our attention and our energy and amplifying it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes so much sense why, what if we put our attention and our devotion towards pleasure and joy and play and the things that light us up? And I love that correlation between enlightenment and, it's like, yeah, you're literally being lit up. You feel alive. And that then is amplified, and it's more, becomes more of your experience. And so I love that. And I'm curious to hear how, because I know so many women and men too are very numb, right? And we'll go into like everything that gets confronted when you go on this path, because I think that that's so much of what has to be worked through in order to get to a place where you can feel like the slightest pleasure, or like pleasure from the slightest touch, and a view, a sunset, or the sound of music, right? Like, we get to amplify our pleasure receivers, our sensation, but we have to kind of clear the gunk that's in the way. But what is your experience with helping people get more into their pleasure? Like, any advice for people who feel disconnected from that, or it takes a lot to feel that pleasure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of dissociation, right? That we've just normalized in our culture. And we're constantly just checking out, right? Anytime we feel a little like, oh, feel a little something, oh, I'm going to scroll. Oh, I'm going to like smoke a cigarette. Oh, I'm going to smoke a little bit. Oh, I'm going to have a drink. Oh, I'm going to like ask somebody else for advice when like I know what I want, but like it feels uncomfortable to look inward, right? And so we've really like normalized this level of numbness. So like whether or not you've had, trauma exists on this spectrum, right? Where if you have mild to moderate trauma, you're left with a state of fight or flight. If you have more severe trauma, you're left in a state of freeze, right? And that's like the numbness, that's the dissociation. And so I would say the first step, right, is actually not trying to just, oh, are we back? Did you lose me?
No, we're good.
Okay. So the first step is not actually just trying to like push yourself into pleasure. The first step, little doses of pleasure, like a soft touch on the hand, right, can be nice. But if you're like in a frozen state or disconnected from your body, that can feel like a lot, or that can feel like it's not really doing anything, right? So the first step is really being with that dissociation. It's really being with that numbness and really understanding like, what am I running from? Like, what is my body trying to protect me from seeing and feeling? And I'll be honest, like when you move through that first layer of dissociation, there's going to be charge on the other side, right? Our body, the way that there's a nervous system map, right? Where here's zero and it goes into like mild stress, peak stress, and then it drops into dissociation. After you feel this dissociation, so like if you see an animal on the safari, the animal, right, if it's about to get attacked, will go into freeze, will play dead, right? After that animal plays dead, you see its body going back through this peak activation state and you see it shaking,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you see it shaking and then it goes back to zero. Well, in our culture, we're so um, programmed to like not let our body do these like weird kind of movements. We're like, that's fucking like
Be normal.
exorcist. That's not normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about like, okay, understanding, right? That your body's gonna coming out of this numbness, it's gonna go through a period of anxiety, of activation, of like rage, and having a healthy container for you to process that. I love psychedelic therapy. It provides the container, the medicine helps you drop into your secondary consciousness versus your primary consciousness. And it helps you drop into, sorry, I said that wrong. It helps you drop from your secondary waking consciousness into back into your subconscious, where your body just knows how to process. Like we are animals, our nervous system has not evolved. Our brains and our consciousness has, but we are still very much animal body. And so just allowing the body to do what it wants to do is the very first step, right? Once we come out of that dissociation, getting like letting the charge move through to come back to a state of neutral, of zero. This is also why I love ketamine therapy. If you're stuck in dissociation and numbness, like ketamine is a dissociative. And when it meets dissociation, it allows you to fully feel the dissociation. And then with a practitioner, you can get resource, right? Like all of trauma results in something stressful happening with no relational landing. If you go through a stressful moment and you have a relational landing, it actually doesn't cause trauma, lasting trauma in the body, right? And so when you're feeling this numbness, oftentimes you actually the system needs touch, loving presence, eye contact, something that signals safety, that you're actually not going to die, that you're okay. And that's what will bring out, right, the processing that will help you get back into a state of neutral. And so, yeah, that's honestly, that's where I would start is like really understanding your nervous system, really understanding like, okay, what nervous system state am I in right now? I have this practice called notice, name, need. So I'm noticing the nervous system state. Then I'm asking it what it needs. Oh, it needs eye contact. Oh, it needs a hug from me. Oh, it needs a glass of water. Giving that part what it needs. Yeah. So notice it and then name it. So like naming the part and then offering that part what it needs. And over time, you're going to feel less pulled into that cycle of numbing. But it's not about making the numbing wrong because it's actually helping you right now. It's helping you with something. And so just getting curious about what is this helping me with?
Yeah, I think when we shift from judgment to curiosity when it comes to healing, it's such a profound shift because you're inviting in the possibility and the truth that your body is intelligent and that it's doing things not because it's broken or your enemy, but because there's an appropriate response for everything that it does. And so if we can understand why, then we can work with it at the root and it becomes supportive in our efforts to help it, right? And so I love that practice too. It just also like is reinforcing that mind body connection, which I think is the first thing to go when we have difficult experiences and trauma, right? It's like we're living so far from just the mind that we're just disconnected from the sensations in the body and pleasure
Mm-hmm.
also, which is,
Mm-hmm.
a sensing experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked a lot about the intentional use of psychedelics, and this has
Mm-hmm.
also been huge on my journey. And I know that you work with microdosing, and so I'm curious to hear for people who maybe haven't explored microdosing, especially within this conversation, like how can it support men and women? But I think you work mostly, well, you're working with men,
Yeah.
but you've worked with women mostly in the past. But
Yeah.
in terms of reconnecting with our sensuality, with with healing the body and the nervous system and building self-trust, how can microdosing support us with that?
So, microdosing is so potent, even though it's a tiny, tiny amount of something, and the effects are very subtle, but they compound over time. So if you think about like a massive, a big dose journey, a full dose journey, you have like all of these insights and awareness and like, oh my God, this is like, I met God. I understand my trauma. I cried so much. Oh my God, I feel reconnected to my ancestors, right? And then you come out and you go back into your everyday life and you're like, oh shit, I'm like still waking up and scrolling. Oh shit, I'm still like just watching TV with my partner instead of initiating connection, right? And it's difficult to like come back into the reality and integrate all of that. And what microdosing provides is this beautiful third person view of self on a day to day. So I'm gonna microdose in the morning, then I'm gonna go about my day and I'm like, I'm noticing that I have like 20 tabs open. That's interesting. I'm just like noticing that that may not be the most helpful thing for my productivity. Oh, I'm noticing that I am watching TV. It like gets you out of the rote, just the habits, right? And allows you to have like this slightly different perspective on what you're already doing. And from that slightly different perspective, that's from a compassionate lens, because microdosing opens up our capital S self, right? It opens up our capital S self to like see things and view things not from a place of like, why are you doing that? You're so stupid, right? But from a place of like, right? Curiosity versus judgment. And from that place of like getting to see things in a little bit different way, we're so much more capable to notice, name what's coming up, and offer it its need. We're so much more able to like shift things in this like slightly different way that then compounds and has like a huge benefit. And it also, right, for somebody that is really numb, like I think microdosing is so powerful for, all of my practices and teachings can be done with microdosing or without microdosing. But for the modern woman, for the modern man, for the modern person who's like very stuck in their ways, it can be really powerful to just little jump start on, um, really coming home to the self and just like giving a different perspective. Um, and from that place, then we can start to clear the numbing and we can start to come back into what lights us up, right? So, microdosing with that connection to the capital S self, I'm able to notice, oh, I'm doing this work and like this is really draining for me. Oh, I'm doing this type of session and I feel so lit up afterwards. Ooh, okay, information. Now I'm going to do more of that, right? And I talk with a lot of people that have tried microdosing and they're like, didn't really do a lot. Took it to go to a concert, like, but doing it in an intentional way with a practitioner, letting your therapist know that you're doing it, integrating with them, right? It can be really powerful because you're going to have all these little awarenesses that come up. I had a past client that was like, it was as if microdosing was like sweeping all of the dirt in my system into a pile. And then sessions with you was actually like clearing out that dirt and composting it. And so have like you're going to be aware of all these things and then having a place to like integrate and move it and then be like, oh, I'm noticing this, okay, now I want to shift this pattern, right? Working with a coach, working with somebody that can help you like stay accountable to that, can be really powerful. But I find that microdosing in in healing, shifting our patterns, and then in that way we're like reconnecting to our body and our sensuality.
Yeah. Do you feel like people who experience more anxiety in their lives and are, because I've heard some people like be afraid of trying psychedelics because they already deal with anxiety and maybe like some panic and they are afraid that it's going to take them into a bad trip. Obviously microdosing is such a small amount that I don't think that that's much of a concern, but I'm assuming you've worked with clients who have been afraid of that. And like, what would you say
Mhm.
to someone who's afraid because of their tendency and their patterns maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually recently had a client who was very anxious, was on Lexapro, and was really scared to microdose because she had a family member who had a schizophrenic break, and it was just like she had never explored drugs or never explored anything like that. And we, the way that I work with a client in that way is really understanding that part. So understanding that, like, okay, there's an anxious part here, right? There's an anxious part about trying this new thing. Again, what does that part need? What is that part scared will happen? And really helping, like helping offer that part some sense of safety. But I also feel like a lot of the anxiety of doing something new like that is actually stemming from the fear that the anxiety will go away and the fear that something is going to shift and change.
Mm.
Because when you're in this chronic state of anxiety, that's your baseline, that's your normal, that's your happy place. Even though you're like, I hate this, it's the happy place for your nervous system. And you've likely grown up in a home environment or with parents that had that as their baseline, right? So shifting out of that baseline is like death. And your body's going to try to keep you alive at all costs. So when you're going to do that big shift, it's actually like, and that reframe can help you. You're like, oh, I'm actually scared that this is going to end. Or the anxiety is, I'm scared that if I look inward and heal, that it's going to reveal something dramatic, right? That I have to leave my partner, that I have to leave my job, that I have to, yeah, those are like two of the big ones, right? Or that I have to move to a new city. And I'm so scared, or I'm so scared that I'm going to find out that at the root of everything, that I actually am a worthless loser, that that there is no love for me, right? And so embarking on any healing journey, it's like hey, body, we're about to do something different. We're about to do something very different. And I know that you're going to act up. And I know that there's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of resistance coming up along the way. And I'm welcoming you. I'm welcoming that fear. I'm welcoming that resistance. And I'm here for you. I'm here to give you what you need. I'm here to hold your hand as the inner loving parent now, right? And I'm here to hold you through this. And so it's almost like expecting, right? That maybe the anxiety is going to get a little bit worse in the beginning. Maybe the resistance is going to be there, and just like preparing the body and your mind for that. And then having really good tools for, like, okay, what happens if I start microdosing and I have a panic attack? Do I have a practitioner? Do I have a friend? Do I have somebody that I can call? Do I have a friend that can come sit with me? And like, really, that can really help the mind is having that like logical plan of, like, if this happens, I know I have support in this way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the whole practice of leaning in and actually meeting the fear. Because I think what a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
happens, whether it's in this situation or really anything else in our lives where we meet that edge, is that we come up against those fears, and instead of investigating and like shifting our relationship with them and learning that it's a part, it's not your entirety of your experience, and there is also this like more this higher self or this adult self that can actually work with it from a compassionate place and soften the fear. And that's what it's so often needing, right? It's wanting to be presenced and met and understood, and then it can actually soften, just like a little kid who's scared is just wanting to be held for a moment and like
Mm-hmm.
acknowledged, and then it softens and it relaxes and it stops screaming. But if you tell that baby stop crying, shush, or you ignore it, it's going to get louder, it's going to get more scared. And so I feel it's the same with our own fears. And so yeah, it's shifting your relationship, and then it doesn't scare you as much either. It's like, okay, once I start learning how to work with these different parts of me, I know I can work through kind of whatever comes up on top of also having tools and resources, right? It's that's how we start creating our own sense of safety of like, I don't have to control everything that's going to happen, because that's also such a big part of going into a psychedelic experience, especially a bigger one. It's like you're going to lose control. And that's kind of the point. But that's not so scary when you trust yourself, because you have this work under your tool belt and you have this understanding and this right relationship with your parts, which is an ongoing journey, but it really does make such a difference.
Mm-hmm. I love this visualization that my friend taught me recently, where if you're trying to like pull open your fist, of like, open, stop crying, stop doing it, right? The fist is just, your fist is just going to tighten more,
Hmm.
right? And I invite anybody listening to try this. Like, put one hand in your fist, and then with your other hand, try to open it. And it's like, no, I'm not going to open, right? And now put your open hand open, and then place your fist on top of the other hand. And it like naturally, the one in the fist naturally wants to open with that support there,
Hmm.
right? And so that's exactly what we were just talking about, is like, yeah, instead of fighting it, like, can you just meet it with love?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there's something about like, yeah, that support. Like, I've got you. Like, I don't know, like wants to
Mm-hmm.
open. It's not a forceful
Mm-hmm.
approach. Yeah, that's huge. Um, okay, with that, wait, okay, I was gonna, where was, oh, okay. Yeah, the pivot that I wanted to make, but that is a perfect segue here, is intuition, and intuition specifically through the body. And more so, you talk a lot about the pussy being the portal to our intuition. And last year, I think it was last year, yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, you proclaimed sub to your pussy, which I think is fucking hilarious. That was like just around the time we had met, and I was like, this girl is something. And I was like, I love it. Like, so curious. And just, yeah, just the way that you, I love the way that you, it almost feels like a more like a game, right? Which applies so much to like pleasure and play and making it more fun and exciting. And so talk to us about that, why you did that, and the connection between our bodies and our pussies and our intuition, and using that as a navigation system.
Yeah.
Because so often in your story too, you were like, oh, like, I was led to do this in spirit and my body told me to do this. And that, I really believe this is our internal GPS for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not doing things because we should or because society told us to, but because we are feeling, oh, a pull towards this, or light, like lit up about that. And that is our
Mm-hmm.
navigation system. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, last year I proclaimed sub to my pussy in front of a group of, I don't know, like 60 people in LA at this amazing event called Mystery Temple.
Oh, I didn't know it was
And
like at an actual event.
it was at an event. It was like, what erotic avatar are you claiming for the year? And I got up on that mic and I was like, I am proclaiming sub. But, and if for people that don't know, like, sub is meaning submissive, the
Yeah.
opposite of dominant, right? And submissive is like usually somebody else is in charge, right? And so me proclaiming sub to my pussy is meaning she's in charge. I do what she wants, I don't do what she doesn't want.
Let's
And
go.
that came through after, through my sexual trauma healing journey, where I realized that I had been touching myself in the same ways that I was programmed that like other people were going to touch me, from a feeling of like taking, and from a like pushing for the orgasm, right? And when I started to listen to her, and like, shout out Regina Thomas Shower, Mama Gina read the book Pussy, and that was a big inspiration for this as well. But like, I'm like, oh my God, I have been touching myself from like programmed from my trauma and like sexual assault and sexual negativity upbringing, and not really like listening to what she wants and listening to what she's desiring. And I realized that I'm like, oh my God, sometimes she doesn't even want to be like played with in the sense of like sexual play. Like she just wants a hand over her. She just wants presence. And I had never really done that before in that intentional way, right? And so yeah, last year came around and it was just this huge reclamation of I'm actually going to listen to the softest, most vulnerable, most sensitive, most yeah, I was like, I'm actually going to listen to the most vulnerable, the most sensitive part of me to make decisions. Like, if she's not a yes, I don't want it. Right. And that was such a reprogramming because decisions would come from the mind and come from should. And then I would bypass my body. Right. And it would end in not great things. And so last year I would gaze at her and I would get a sense of like, okay, are you a yes to this or a no to this? And a yes was like this flowering yes, and a no was like just this like no. And I started checking in with her on all of these decisions and it was so fascinating because sometimes I would be like, I want to sign up for that $3,000 money program. And Pussy's like, no, like you got what you need. I'm like, oh my God, I want to go on a date with his partner. And she's like, no. But sometimes I would think, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go on that retreat. Like, that's going to be too much money. That's going to be, oh, that's scary. And Pussy was like, yes. Like, yes. And I'm like, I guess we're going. I guess we going. and and I like truly believe that part of why I feel like lit up and in my joy now is because I've like reconnected to her and reconnected to what she wants and what she doesn't want. And it's like it's so much more clear now. And, Mama Gina in her book Pussy talks about this, where GPS is the great pussy in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you think about it, like our pussy, our womb is connected, our uterus is connected to the beyond, is connected to the unknown. It is where life is created, right? And so when you're checking in with Pussy, you're checking in with the goddess. You're checking in with God, right? You're checking in with your higher self. And you're listening and you're not pushing, and she's going to be like, "No, I need to go slower here." Or, "Bitch, you got what you need. Like, let's go," right? Like it's going to be but it's going to come from that place that is the most sensitive, right? And what I wanted to say earlier was like Pussy is also the most shamed part of us. And so of course it's going to carry all of our power, right? Because in a society, in a patriarchal world culture, they're pushing down the feminine, right? And trying to take our power away. And so it's very helpful to be like, that smells, your period is gross. Oh, I'm just gonna like take this for my pleasure. This actually isn't for you, right? And it's wrong to touch yourself. Like masturbating, there's still a lot of shame around that for men, but like it's more okay than women self-pleasuring, right? And yeah, so when we can clear that shame and actually listen to that part, it's like direct source to clearing shame around anything else, right? Shame around using our voice, shame around doing a creative project that feels scary and we feel like we're going to fail at it, but like we really want to do it, right? It's like it just like plugs you in. It just really plugs you in.
Yeah, I mean, you're going directly to the most shameful part, right? And if
Yeah.
you're able to reconnect to that and listen and honor, then everything else I feel like is a little bit easier. And what a what a powerful, to go like in this case in your story, but I think it's so relatable to so many women of going from feeling like you were here to serve someone else, to then completely honoring the yes and no of your body, and especially your pleasure. Like that is like that's the transformation right there, you know. And we think we've been so taught to believe that pleasure and to be in our pleasure and follow our intuition and our desires and such is like selfish, self-centered and whatnot. So let's just touch on that for a second, like, because it's like it's so backwards. And the more we are in our magnetism as women, which is connected to our bodies and our sensuality and our desires and our pleasure, the more we actually are, you know, can be of service and are this like light in the world. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what's the connection there between us being connected to our pleasure and our magnetism?
Yeah. Well, I would say, I mean, first, there's so much here, right? But first, it's like if you think about, okay, well, we'll start here. Number one, right? Women, the womb, anybody with a womb, right? We attract, we pull towards us, right? And when our pussies are activated, that magnetism is super strong, right? And again, going back to our hormone cycles, when we're doing what lights us up, right? Lower cortisol, higher progesterone. Okay, now we're ovulating. Now we're in our ultimate magnetism state. And it's not actually in our nature to go out and like push and try and do. It's actually in our nature to just receive, right? And so when we're in pleasure, like our magnetism is stronger. But like, why it can be like, okay, well, my magnetism is stronger. So doesn't that mean that I'm going to take away from somebody else? Doesn't that mean that like I'm not going to show up for my family if I'm just like in my yummy pleasure, right? And that's totally valid, right? That's the witch wound. That's the comparison. That's thinking that like, um, yeah, if we have, then somebody else does not have. Um, and if you think about this, right? Like think about a family with a mom who's just going about her life doing things that she hates. She hates doing the dishes. She hates cooking dinner every day. Oh, she hates the job that she's going to, right? Her cup that she's giving from is like close to empty, right? And her nervous system state, right? I believe that all of us have a duty, right? Everybody around us is impacted by our nervous system state. And so if we're in a state of stress and overwhelm, we're actually impacting other people around us, right? That we don't realize. And so if you think about that mom, right? She's impacting the entire household from that state. Now imagine that she's like, oh my God, I love painting. And so she starts taking a painting class that she goes to, let's say once per week, even. And that little drop of pleasure, she's like, oh, I'm creating something. I'm feeling good, right? Ooh, now I'm like, ooh, now I want to like initiate something with my partner. Or now I'm like, I just want to give my kids a hug because like I'm right. Her cup is starting to get more full and she's actually helping everybody else around by doing what she wants. And it doesn't have to mean that you quit your job, that you leave the relationship, that you like abandon your family, right? Like even in friendships, you know, if you're doing what lights you up, then you're coming into friendships more full and more willing to give. And, you know, I see this too, you know, if some of you listeners are in the healing world and are practitioners, um, it can feel like really hard to do a session in the way that you want to do a session versus in what you were taught is like safe and okay to like offer a healing service, right? And that's what I had to get out of. But like your client will feel if you are not enjoying the session. right? Your client will feel if you are like, I'm bored, I feel burnt out, like this is not enjoyable for me, right? And that goes to pricing as well, right? If we're not getting paid well for our services, we're not going to feel good. And then the client is actually not going to get that great of an experience. So we can think like, this is bad or wrong, or I'm taking if I'm actually charging more, but it actually benefits everybody involved, right? And so yeah, like it's such a reframe, right? And it's I'm still in this. Like I still come up against this. And same with like checking in with pussy. I still sometimes say yes to something that I was actually a no to. And sometimes you just gotta fuck around and find out. You know? You just gotta be like, okay, I feel like this is amazing, but I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. Right? Because I know that I've got myself. I'm no longer in this state of like, is this going to be safe? Is this going to be safe? I don't want to choose wrong, right? It's like, oh, I can choose wrong and still be okay. I can be in an unsafe, right? Because I am safe within, I'm secure within, and I'm like protected and I've got myself. And it just like takes the like pressure off, right? And so it's like, if you are curious about doing something or trying something that will like bring more pleasure into your life, go for it. Like just take one little tiny step towards that thing and see what happens. Ooh, it feels good. Take one tiny step more. Ooh, okay, it doesn't feel good anymore. Okay. Ooh, we're going to redirect just a little bit. Oh, okay. And now we're just following the path step by step. That's how we climb the mountain, right? We're not like trying to climb the very tippy top when we're at the bottom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the for some reason the quote "happy wife, happy life" came to my mind as you were talking. I'm like, but that's so true. And
But
what
it's so true.
because like if the feminine is in her joy and in her pleasure, everyone around can feel it. Because yeah, we are
Mm-hmm.
magnetizing, and also the power of energetics for everyone that's filling their own cup. There's just this like energetic feeling, and we're all connected through that. But especially the feminine, like we got to be lit up, and that is felt in a room, you know. And so
Yeah.
there's so much to that. But I want to circle back real quick. First of all, just before we continue, are you good on time, or do you have a hard cutoff?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good till like 12:30.
Okay, cool.
Let me
Yeah.
see.
So I just have like one or two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Um, I want to touch really quickly on self pleasuring, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that throughout this whole conversation, you've kind of explained how pleasure can move beyond, like, the power of pleasure beyond just, oh, it feels good, right? There's a huge healing and awakening and rewiring component to it. But let's dive a little bit just for a moment into self pleasuring as a gateway to all of that, right? To healing the
Mm-hmm.
body, to reconnecting to intuition, to all of it. Especially for women who are maybe really resistant to that, but want to be in their magnetism, want to be in that lit up state. They know that that's so much of their power. Yeah, what advice do you have, or any like practices that are a bridge for women?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there can be so much shame around touching ourselves. If you've had sexual trauma, it can even feel like intensely scary to use your hand on your own body, right? And it can also feel like it can be like the thing that just gets pushed to the back burner last, right? And even if you're in a partnership, you're probably maybe prioritizing connection with your partner over self pleasuring, right? Um, and self pleasuring can be, as you were saying, such a connection to our magnetism, learning about our bodies, learning what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and actually just appreciating this vessel as the like queendom, right? Pussy as queen. And so it's, you know, yeah, there is an edge to get over, right? And what I love to do is like set aside a time to make it ritualized. Because if you're just like, I'm gonna go like self pleasure tonight, right? There's like I don't, for women and for feminine beings, we take time to warm up. We take time. We need like a little like seducing here and there, right? So it can start with just like looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, ooh, I like this little neckline, or oh, I like, just starting to like check yourself out a little bit. And then planning a date that you're going to have with yourself, that you're going to clear the calendar. You're going to set aside 1 hour, 2 hours. You're going to have a bath and candles. And you're not going to have a plan of, I'm going to self pleasure and orgasm. You're actually going to take that completely off the table, right? So when we think that we have to reach a goal, that shuts down pussy like no other. When there's expectation or pressure, she's like, nope, not today, right? When you're just like, I am just gonna like be in the bath, right? And start to caress my body. And oh, I'm just gonna like be with the soft music and the candlelight. Okay, now I'm gonna like go lay in bed. And maybe you do like an abhyanga massage, which is an Ayurvedic practice. Sometimes like framing it in like a wellness can help a little bit of like, oh, this is like good for me and good for my vata, dosha. And so I'm gonna like massage myself and oil, and now I like have some music on that feels really good, right? And it's like, okay, I'm not even trying to go for pussy. I'm just like I'm like pleasuring my body, and then just letting your fingers explore, right? When it feels good and safe for you. So I actually invite you to be like, check in, like, body, do you want touch on the breasts? Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Pussy, would you like touch? No. Okay, not yet. Great. Let me just like continue on and not make her bad or wrong for saying no in that moment, but celebrating it. And then maybe a little bit later, checking in again. Do you want touch now? And she's like, yes. And then like, okay, now I'm going to like start to explore and start to notice what feels good. And yeah, for me, learning about my erotic blueprint was really helpful in that phase of like finding what feels good and finding a self pleasure practice that I like, because I'm very energetic and very sensual. And so for me, like flowers and like beautiful things and music like really delights my senses and turns me on, versus somebody else might be more sexual, where they might just like love just boom, hand to pussy, like let's go, or boom, let's bring out the dildo, let's get into it. And so actually just like exploring and learning, like, okay, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And yeah, having a practice where you're like intentionally presencing with her every single day, whether it's through just a quick hello, whether it's just like touching her, in not in a sexual way, but just like hold hand over pussy, right? Put your hand on your pussy while you're driving to work. Go to the bathroom in the middle of work and just like say hello to her, right? The more you connect with her, the more she's going to turn on, and actually like the libido is going to rise, and you're going to want to play with her more. You're going to want to self pleasure, right? So again, letting it come from like this desire place versus I have to self pleasure to be in my magnetism. Blech. No.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
devotion to pleasure. It's not about
Mhm.
just getting off, but like really, especially for the feminine, it's like you are devoted to pleasure, which is, as you've already mentioned, connected to so many other things. And yeah, even just again, building the mind body connection between your like mind and your awareness and directing that specifically to her and to pussy is like, that's already going to start the sensation, the flow of sensation, right? And
Mhm.
that's how we start to activate and awaken. And
Mhm.
it's also the root of our creativity, of
Mhm.
so much. Our root chakra, everything is like the sacral like region. I think just bringing life back there and pleasure is just huge.
Mhm.
Okay, last question before we start wrapping up. And we don't have
Mm-hmm.
to make this very long, but I do think it's a powerful question. You have been working a lot more with men recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious to hear about that briefly. And then more specifically, like, what do you wish more women knew about men, for us to start to connect and meet each other more consciously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Healing my relationship with the masculine was such an instrumental part of coming out of the sexual trauma, right? And actually being okay with the masculine. And it also related to healing my inner masculine because we all have masculine and feminine energetics. So it was healing my inner masculine that like wanted to fight and push and grind, and recognizing that masculinity is such a beautiful energy. And for me, growing up without really like a strong masculine protector father, I love my dad. He like did the best he could, and like I needed, my little girl needed more. And because that wasn't there, my inner masculine got really big and strong to protect my inner feminine, right? And so as I healed my feminine, then my inner masculine could like kind of come back. And so it's been so interesting over the last year that I've been, yeah, attracting more male clients and working with men more. And it's been such a beautiful thing to witness that men carry the same wounding, the same hurt little boy, right? The same, like not being able to name what they want, right? Like the patriarchal world culture harms everybody, right? Because men are given this standard of you can't cry, you have to be strong, you can't fuck up, you have to like do things in this certain way, right? And there's so much sexual shame as well with men. And I believe that the sexual shame in men is actually what causes them to potentially be perpetrators and cause harm to women. Because if you push sexuality into the shadows, it's not like it goes away, right? But it's going to come out in really like unsafe ways. And so men are going to like still try to like get that need met, but they're not going to have no idea how to just like ask for what they want. Hey, you have beautiful lips. I would love to kiss you right now. It's like we're not given that communication framework. So what do? They just grab your face and kiss you. And then you're like, what just happened? Like, well, but right. And then that can cause harm. And so what I've learned is that, yeah, for so long I had so much like, me, it's men, like what men cause me harm. So like, fuck them, right? And now I'm like, oh my God, like men need help. The men need help. And they've been so disconnected from their own feminine and actually feeling safe with the feminine because they've been brought up to like demonize it and think of it as lower, even subconsciously, right? And then they like seek out the feminine in all these like weird ways. Whereas I think if we just like made it very normal that people want to worship the feminine, people want to worship women, and like that's beautiful and okay. And also men have like inner feminine that they want to explore. So like what I would say to yeah, women listening or anybody listening to like understand about men is that they also feel unsafe and unheard. They also have these challenges that they're working through. They also have a lot of sexual shame, even though even if it might not look like it because maybe they're more expressed in it, right? But they still have those layers. And so being able to like meet your friends and your partner with even your parents, right? With this like, oh my God, like I understand now, right? And just from that place of like, oh, we're in this together. We're in this together. It's not men versus women, masculine versus feminine. It's like we're all impacted by the programming, by the culture, by the ways that we've been brought up in a way that disconnects us from ourselves. And the way to come home is actually in that understanding and in that recognition. And also, obviously, not tolerating harm. If you're with a narcissist and they're continuing to harm you, and you're like, but I understand that they had trauma and they were really hurt. It's like, we can understand that. And we can also, create boundaries for ourselves and not tolerate bad, not bad behavior, but just like harm. Um, and yeah, and that there are good men. There are good men, and the masculine is beautiful. The masculine is beautiful. It's like the structure that holds us. It's like putting our calendar together and like, okay, now that my feminine can flow because I have this masculine structure. And so really like men also want to feel honored and appreciated. They want to feel seen for what they're doing, the way that they're showing up. And like I know that I can get caught in a like naggy, like critical part of like, you're not doing that right. And it's like, no, no, they don't need that. They need love and appreciation just as much as our feminine needs love and appreciation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That was
Yeah.
beautifully said. And, we all, like you said, carry masculine and feminine within us. And I think that the more that we actually all come together and recognize that we have different circumstances, but the same shared human experience and emotions underneath all of it. And when we can actually start to understand each other and heal together and work together, there is such a beauty too of that coming together of the feminine and the masculine, whether that's within us or within union or, everything in this world is those two energies kind of, and the beauty is when they actually their strengths come together and they help each other rise. And so I really appreciate that perspective, and I appreciate you so much. You are such a wealth of wisdom and information and love and compassion. And yeah, I'm just so, so grateful to have you in my life. And I've learned so much from you, and I'm so excited to release this one. So let people know how they can connect with you and work with you.
Amazing. Yeah, so my website is ariannamccartneynd.com. You can learn more about me there. My Instagram is the sacred freak, the.sacred.freak, freak with a PH. And yeah, send me a DM. I would love to hear from you if you listened. What were your ahas? What moved for you? What are you curious about? And yeah, I'm really excited. I just hosted a sexual trauma healing retreat in Golden, Colorado for women who have had sexual trauma. And I've got no like upcoming things, but definitely stay on the lookout because more is coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go follow Arianna on Instagram for sure. Your content is amazing and hilarious, and also so informative. And yeah, I just love everything that you're putting out. And like, thank you for following your path, even though it's like a little bit of a taboo topic still, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so fucking needed. So thank you. I love you. I will include all your info in the show notes below for people. And yeah, that's it. We will see you guys next week.
Amazing.